how important it is to be self-reliant.
We still have a long way to go. We can reduce our dependence, but to say that we can be completely self-reliant, we have to go back to the village economy, which is difficult to reverse. China has invested so much into manufacturing, many of them will become redundant as the 3D technology advances.
When will we be satisfied with the way our country is doing its trade?
In my opinion, we are exporting only those items which the world does not need. For example, Iran has done drones, where it's supplying all the drones to Russia.
The trade is one of the most important aspects of a country's growth because based on that, there's an allocation on the budget. Since the LPG policy of 1991, there has been a trade deficit for India. What that means is the import is always higher than the exports. That is why it is so crucial for us to understand the trade of our country. And I bring to you Dr. Amiya Chandra, a retired diplomat who is also the Director General Foreign Trade, brings with him a wealth of experience in the aspect of trade. We discuss different potentials of India's trade and how India can improve in the aspect of exports, discussing different industries which has the potential for growth and many other topics. Presenting to you Dr. Amiya Chandra. Before we start today's conversation, I've got one request. If you ever enjoyed the videos or found any value out of it, please subscribe to it. It really helps us as a channel to improve our content and bring better guests. Thank you again and enjoy the rest of the video. Begin with, sir, I would like to understand from you how important is trade in a country's growth?
In the economic growth of any country, trade has always remained very important. In fact, China's march to economic supremacy, or numero uno, exports has played the most significant role. Apart from it, the foreign trade basically improves the competitiveness of your domestic products and gives quality edge, because if it has to compete in the international market, it has to be of international standard. We had an era of ambassador and fiats. Now we have so many choices. Exports is also important to the extent that it gives choices to the consumer at a competitive price, and it also leads to better division of labor in the international community, meaning thereby that whosoever does it in a better way, with better quality, at a lesser price, and with a quicker delivery, will fetch that order. So the entire international economic system improves.
So how is India doing at the moment in terms of trade?
We are currently stagnating in terms of India's exports. In fact, in 23-24, our merchandise went down by 3.1%, merchandise exports. Services exports grew by 4.4%, but overall it remained the same, 23-24, what it was in 22-23. Our services exports have gone up by approximately 4.5%, but I feel that in case what we have promised that we will be 11 times more by 2047 than the current state, then much needs to be done than what we are doing today.
So are you saying export is more important than import?
Of course, exports is more important than import, but the import has also its usefulness. For making your exports competitive and also quality-wise superior, you need certain inputs today. You need good technology, you need good capital goods, you need good intermediaries, because in the entire value chain, if the product is going to be price-wise competitive, then all the value chain, that is raw material, intermediates, production processes, quality certification, all has to be of international standard. Some of it we are good, but even if in one or two issues like intermediates or raw material, if we can procure it from outside at a much cheaper price, then the final product will be cheaper and of better quality.
Right.
So the import is equally important as far as the exports are concerned. So it has been seen that the exports, growth in exports is directly related to the growth in imports also. So import is good for the country as long as you are not importing only consumer goods and luxury goods.
According to you, what needs to be done in order to make our exports 11 times, as you said, by 2047, by 100-year vision that the PM Modi has? There must be a lot of things, different levels that need to be covered. What, according to you, are the most important things?
You must first identify the problem. Where lies the problem? I worked in the ministry, and quite often I saw that the targets were fixed by incremental growth, both country-wise and product-wise. So we will say in CIS countries will go by 10% or 15%. And in particular commodities like agriculture or textiles will go by 10%. Such approaches do not work. There are many reasons why it doesn't work. Most important reason, if you do an analysis of the goods which we are exporting and importing, you would see that approximately 5,064 items constitute 100% of the export basket, out of which 502 items, that is 10%, constitutes 83% of exports. Our vulnerability is just in 10%, whereas the total basket is 5,082. Now, out of that also, approximately out of these 502 items, approximately 300 items are exported only to 1 to 3 countries. So in case there is some problem in that country because of war or because of economic problem, or there is some breakdown, then possibly we are going to suffer in a much bigger way. So our export direction is very narrow. That is point number one. Point number two, if you see imports also, approximately 4,900 items are one which we are importing. 80% of these items, and in the same manner, almost 516 items are one which constitutes 88.9% of our import basket. So just 516 items account for 90% of our import bills and value, out of which approximately I can say that 300 items are coming from only 1 to 3 countries. So you can see like oil, you can see other items which we are importing. So if these countries stop giving us import, we are into deep trouble. What happened with China, with most of the countries? Once China started the COVID was there, they realized that China is not going to assist them, and China created trouble. Everybody realized the importance of friend shoring or near shoring, that they will move their production to a nearby country or to a friendly country. So China plus one policy came into existence. So A is that India's both the import basket and the export basket is very narrow. That's point number one. Point number two, the world is importing 70% of its total, let's say that the items where there is 70% of import worldwide, India exports only 0.29%, meaning thereby that the import requirement of the world, out of the entire import basket of 70%, India's contribution in those products is just 0.29%.
0.29%.
0.29%. And the world requirement, wherever it is, only of 10%, India's exports is 30%. Now, what I'm trying to say is that we more rely on the push factor than the pull factor. What is the push factor? Push factor is that whatever we produce, we will try to find a market for that.
To sell it.
The pull factor comes that whatever is your requirement, you would ask for it and we'll make it. So we do not make as per the world requirement. We make what is our convenience. Third part, which is very important, is that we have not done a proper world mapping. Geopolitical and geoeconomic has changed drastically.
It has.
Due to COVID, due to war, the entire world has changed. And their requirements have changed. Now, there is a country which is in war. During the time of war, its requirement will be different in terms of food items, hospital equipments. And once the war is over, then reconstruction needs will be there. We have not done any such proper mapping. That's point number one. Point number two, India is a young nation, but in Asia, Japan is an old nation. Worldwide, the world is aging. The old people requirement, they have the purchasing power. Young generation does not have that amount of purchasing power. So the myth that old people will not buy need to be busted. And you need to supply those items to the old people who have the purchasing power. Now, young population, for example, do not buy houses. They are more mobile. They would like to settle anywhere they wish to.
Right.
Young population would not mind to wear sherwani today, to wear funky dress tomorrow, because they would like to hire those dresses. They know that they are not going to wear them more than 2 times. So they will hire it and then they'll give it back to them. The young people would like to share the travel. For example, they would like to go on Mercedes today, they would like to go BMW tomorrow, rather than owning the car. The old generation would like to own the houses. They would like to own the car. They would like to have a settled life, unlike young generation. So we have to do a demographic profiling also.
Okay.
The nation which is old in age need to have different export needs than the nation which is young. Finally, there is massive rural-urban migration taking place. And there is a migration of ethnic grouping happening worldwide.
Right.
Palestinians have moved out, they have gone somewhere else. Indians are one which are settled in many countries. Have we done a study of the ethnic population migration and the mapping according to the latest migration? And also in terms of rural and urban one. Now, young people are more environment conscious. So they would like to have, it's a fad today to have the vegan. Now, in the same manner, they would like to have more environment friendly food, which is lab grown meat and which is personalized food and fast food than the older people. All this kind of mapping is important before we make a strategy for our exports to that country. We have also ensured that whatever is coming from the competitor, how can we edge them out?
Right.
So after this mapping only, we can actually push the exports rather than increasing by 10% or 15%, and saying that, all right, this year we have done this much percent, next year we can go by incremental increase of 15%. Unless you make a systemic study and systemic changes, these increments will not take place. And if you are thinking that you are going by 2047, 11x increase, today 0.77 trillion US dollar is there, and you are going to have 11 times, by 2047, then this incremental approach will not work. You have to have a systemic study, systemic approach, their requirement, pull factor, rather than relying on the push factor.
So you were saying that it's important to understand the requirements before getting into it.
In my opinion, there are 6 factors which have led to the drastic change required from incremental approach to a systemic approach. And these 6 factors are: one is onset of Industry 4.0. I'll explain this later. Second is, as I said, changing demographic profile. Third is Services 2.0. Fourth is e-commerce. Fifth is geopolitical and geoeconomic. Final one is entire change in the space structure today. So these 6 changes which has happened in this generation or in the past few years are possibly more important than the changes which has taken place over the past 50 years.
Right. This will the evolution will be faster as well because of the technological advancement. We'll get into that after. But before, I want to understand to you, what is your definition of a balanced trade? What would you call, right now there's a trade deficit for us. There's more import than we export. When will we be satisfied with the way our country is doing its trade?
Trade deficit is a very normal process. In fact, for a developing country, import is very important for exports, provided it brings more raw material, intermediates, and the capital goods than the consumer goods. In the trade deficit, we get oil, which is important for our economy. We also get diamond, which is re-exported with value addition. So I do not consider trade deficit per se is anything bad.
Okay.
Because imports are as important as exports. And I'm not unduly bothered about the trade deficit also. Of course, we need to find out the way how can we narrow down the trade deficit in terms of cutting down on the unnecessary luxury goods, putting higher taxes, which we are doing it, to ensure that there is no inverse tax, in the sense that you have more taxes on the raw material than the finished products. That should not happen. And the third part, and the most important part, is the imports you have to look for the substitution. Now, with the oil, the world is looking for a substitution.
Right,
You know,
right.
the fossil fuel, you are looking for a substitution. In the same way, in the energy, which is today expected that the worldwide, it will be 120 trillion market of the renewable energy
Green energy.
sources. So, you know, if you need to harness that energy, and India has abundant sun power, India has abundant ocean power, it has hydro energy, solar energy, wind energy. We are suitable for almost all kinds of energy. And it's important that we step towards this direction so that we can cut down our dependence on the oil. And in the oil also, as Russia, as India has shown, we need to diversify, like we diversified with Russia, rather than taking it only from the Gulf countries, going against the Western and the American pressure. We did that, and we have shown that we can stand up, and we can say that our economic interests are also important. We would not like to be cowed down by the Western bully. And today, Western countries are also buying oil from Russia.
Yeah.
You know, so India had shown the path. So it's important that we continue looking for the substitute for excessive dependence on certain imported materials like oil. But overall, if it's for capital goods, raw material, intermediaries, which helps in our exports and which makes value chain very substantive, in the sense that we get quality products at a lesser price, I'm not averse to imports.
What would be an ideal trade balance?
There is no ideal trade balance. There is a direct correlation between exports and imports.
Okay.
You know, the more we have imports, the more we have exports. If you are going up, let's say, very high on export trajectory, naturally the imported component will be high.
Right.
So the trade deficit will be higher. So I do not mind having a trade deficit, but what I would like is a smartphone model. What is smartphone model or Maruti model? You are importing something and then exporting it, making it in the value chain. The value addition will be less, but then you need to somehow indigenize it.
Right.
Like smartphone, most of the equipments which we are importing, now we have started manufacturing in India also. And now Maruti, while it was importing all its components, have started, this is the hub and spoke model, where Maruti is now all its vendors based in India only. It has indigenized production. So the initial imports, even if it's happening in the capital goods or the equipments or the raw material, we need to start production inside the country only. And that is a very normal and natural trend which any exporter would like to do, because A, it can be made of the same quality as per international standards. Then A, it will be cheaper because of the cheap labor force here. B, it will be quicker to deliver. And C, there will be a complete quality control over here where they can actually monitor, like Maruti is monitoring its Gurgaon vendor, what kind of quality goods they are making. So this is a natural march which will happen, where indigenization of the entire imported material will continue to take place.
So as an expert who has studied a lot of different nations and their trade game that they do, which country, which nation would you rate on a top in terms of trade that we should look up to as well?
This is a very little tricky question. I'll tell you why. See, America is a top country in terms of manufacturing. Now, this is not my opinion, but China has overtaken it in terms of manufacturing. America is still very good in terms of services. It has shifted its attention to the service sector. Now, there has been a tendency by all these countries to leave certain sector, like China has relinquished handicraft, leather sector, and it has moved to electronics and engineering, where there is more value addition. So, you know, if India can do that, then we'll be very happy. But that's not right now, not possible, because there are 23 sectors which I have identified for our exports, which I'll list out right now. There are certain sectors which are very important for employment opportunity also. And if the exports is not giving employment opportunity to its people, then possibly it's not worth it. So we have to take care of agriculture, we have to take care of textiles, we have to take care of precious and semi-precious metal, whatever is there. Because in that, the labor component, if you see in terms of value, in terms of volume, in terms of skill set, and in terms of technology, then it is low in value, high in volume, low in technology, and low in skill set. But they have a very high employment opportunity.
Right.
And that's an important factor. In the same way, if I come and if I go in terms of services, then I would say that logistics or transport is the one where the low skill set is required. But that's very important in terms of employment opportunities. In the same manner, if I go to electrical, electronic, or audio, in terms of services, audiovisual, tourism, hospitality sector, then they are little higher in skill set, still high in volume, and the value is high in terms of the realization will be high. The skill set is not that high required here. But if I go to the third and the fourth sector, let's say, for example, if I go to the sector which is pharmaceutical, if I go to the sector like medicine, or if I go to the sector like accounting in terms of services, accounting, if I talk about medical value travel, which people come here for their treatment,
Medical tourism,
which you say that, then these are little high in skill set also, and high in value also, and not that labor intensive, but higher value realization is there. And the last sector, if you ask me, then if you go to the drone or nanotechnology, which is Industry 4.0, and if you go to Services 2.0, which is additive manufacturing, AI-generated machine learning, deep machine learning, legal profession. Now, these all are high in skill sets, high in value, low in volume, and these are low in employment. So you have to have a judicious mix of all the four sectors. One which is very high in volume, and one which is very low in volume. One which is low in value, but other one which is high in value. One where the employment opportunity is very high, one where employment opportunity, because in the third and fourth sector, automation is taking place. So they will not be offering, they are procedure engineering, so they will not be offering lots of employment opportunity. But all these identified 23 sectors need to be pursued with consistency, so that we give employment as well as we give high return or high value in terms of exports.
So we see the world, like you said, is at an edge right now. There's so many conflicts happening around the world. How important is it for India to be self-reliant in these times? Because you never know, the dynamics of the globe changes overnight, and the relationship with countries change as well. So how important it is to be self-reliant?
India has embarked on the policy of PLI so that we remain self-reliant. In fact, Honorable Prime Minister had said very clearly, while it's important to produce for exports, it's equally important if we can satiate our own population. And that's why PLI aims at the volumes of production which is required. But to say that any nation can be self-reliant is a myth.
True.
Worldwide, every nation is dependent on another nation, and that's Emile Durkheim's division of labor, where he says that if you can produce one segment efficiently, then it's better you do it for the whole world, rather than taking care of the entire segment. You know why it's called Industry 4.0? Because the first industry was one when the steam engine came into place and mechanization was there, a little bit, industrial revolution took place. The second industrial revolution took place when electricity came. Ford, he saw assembly line. Now, how did he learn assembly line? He looked at a pig slaughtering in his country, and he saw that one person is not doing the entire slaughtering job. So it is going on an assembly line where everybody is assigned a particular task. He introduced the concept of automobile assembly line in the automobile. But if I take this analogy a little further, I would like to say that in the world, assembly line need to be specialized more and more. Now you see that some nation in India, one person who is making just auto pin is doing a business of millions of dollars. Now, Sundaram Fastener is one which is making defect-free automobile, some equipment for years altogether. It's specializing only in that material. So today the world is of a specialization. So if you say that it's possible to be self-reliant, it will be a myth. Yes, we can reduce our dependence on other nations which are not very friendly to us. But to say that we can be completely self-reliant, we have to go back to the village economy, which is difficult to reverse, right?
So coming back to the trade of a nation, I mean, when you talk about trade, it has to be in a correlation with the government and the private sector. What policies can the government introduce that would promote the private sector to do better in terms of the trade?
There is a saying, it takes two to tango. So the government and the private sector have to work together. There are two issues which are ailing the exports from India. One I would call horizontal issues, one I would call vertical issues. Now, what is horizontal issue? Now, horizontal issues are those issues which are common to all the segments of exports, like infrastructure. When I talk about logistics, when I talk about water, port facilities, shipping, airlines, these all are logistics infrastructure which the government has to connectivity with the port. Now, if I go to the second is the financial issues, availability of the credit line, availability of at a cheaper rate of interest. If I say about third issue, which is ease of doing business. Now, ease of doing business is much bigger than ease of administration. The government, we somehow ensured that we take less and less time, but ease of doing ranking India has improved.
Yeah.
And it has lots of factors into it. Now, if I say the fourth factor will be quality benchmarking. Quality is very important. That means accreditation, development of international standards, assessment and accreditation of those standards. These are all quality benchmarking. And the human resources will be the fifth factor. Do you have the skill set to make those items? So the government has to generate that skill set. Now, China, when smartphones were asked to leave China, they said, we will not be getting that skill set in China at that rate. Worldwide, they have the best skill set. So we have to not only upskill, we have to reskill also.
Right.
The entire, and we have to skill also the entire population. Otherwise, 60% of the people who are in the service sector, they'll be redundant in the next 5 years. So that needs to be done. And finally, what are the trade promotion measures which the government is going to take? Now, these 6 factors basically affect all the sectors like agriculture, textiles, food processing, services sector. Because in order to be very competitive in any sector, you need to be of a top-rated these 6 sectors in any country. There are other things also which needs to be done, which has to be done by the private sector. For example, many marketing opportunity is like, it's like a boxing punches. If you do not decide on that spur of the moment, you lose the opportunity.
Right.
The COVID came, there were opportunities for the hospital, there were opportunities for the beds, there were opportunities for the medicine, there were opportunities for medical equipment. And COVID went away, those go away. The war is there, there'll be again hospitalization, food processed food, logistics, everything will be required. So, all these opportunity identification has to be done by the private sector.
Right.
The government cannot come. Government can only set up the broad outlines, but actual identification, taking advantage of that, the matchmaking, that has to be done by the private sector. So that's why, as in tango, you need 2 partners to dance for making a successful exports business. The government and the private sector, they have to dance together.
So we're lucky that we're in a phase where we are able to see a lot of technological advancement. We are seeing a lot of change, like you said, opportunities that we can take in. What opportunities can our viewers or me can take in order to improve and take the opportunity that is given to us at the moment? with the technological advancement?
Let's see, for example, when I said Industry 4.0, what are few components of Industry 4.0? Deep machine learning, automation, mechanization, artificial intelligence. I'll give you few examples in the Industry 4.0. Nobody had thought that in the steel manufacturing, you can deploy artificial intelligence and data. What Tata did in 2018, they applied artificial intelligence, data, and cloud. These three formed the major component of their manufacturing processes. When I said it takes two to tango, this does not only apply to government and the private sector, it also applies to service and manufacturing. Now, earlier, service and manufacturing were viewed as separate sectors. Now, service has become an integral part of manufacturing. Now, what did Tata do? Tata had taken, for example, in a steel manufacturing, in a furnace, they normally used to take many pictures and they had data. The data was to the tune of 6 terabyte. They took more pictures, they created more data because all these furnaces have lakhs of sensors. So they can take data and they can create. So now it was 5.6 petabyte, 1000 times more data they collect. Then they migrated all this data to the cloud. They took Amazon cloud, they used Microsoft, they used IMB, they used, then they used Tata's own, and this all data were migrated to the cloud, and they created a complex series of 260 algorithm. Apart from that, they integrated their command and control system. They call it IROC, that is Integrated Operation Center. So at one place, they would ensure that the materials are coming on the right time to all this. So the procurement of the material, the SAP was there, but they also ensured that all the materials, whatever is required, they arrive just in time. Then it was not important to shift people. This was based in Jamshedpur. It was not important that people should be shifted from Jamadoba or West Bokaro or Jamshedpur or any other place. They can stay there. The technology allowed them to operate from their own center because it was command and control at one place. And this way they could save $2 billion in $33 billion operation.
Wow.
Now, if it can be done in the steel production, it can be done in any industry.
In any business.
Any business. That's number one. Number two, artificial intelligence. Many things have become much easier and much cheaper. I'll give you a very small example. There is an America Cup, which is for sailing. And New Zealand has won it consecutively for many years by actually doing in virtual reality. So they did sailing in the virtual reality, they created that atmosphere, what should be the yacht structure, how it should be sailed, how should be the mechanical force. They kept on practicing till they perfected, and hence they have won all the competitions. I'll give you another example. So in the agriculture sector, what John Deere does is that if you have one space, you will feed the data that what is the soil structure, what kind of seeds you are going to put it here. And on a virtual reality, it will show that if it comes after 3 months or 4 months, what kind of crop you are going to get, what kind of disease it's likely to be infected with, at what time, what kind of pesticide you need to apply. So you have almost a near perfect crop. I had recommended to the Ministry of Commerce for the creation of 24/7 virtual line. On 14th of November every year, we hold international exhibitions at India International Trade Fair. Now we have limited space, we have limited number of companies coming. Imagine, because of this metaverse and augmented reality, we put so many data into the space, and where you have to only buy the data. So any company can be there. And if you want to buy anything from that company, you can actually go there, feel the products. Your avatar can enter there, and you have the negotiation room inside the metaverse. You can sit in that room and negotiate where nobody else is listening there. There are fashion parades, and in the fashion parade, your avatar can wear a particular dress, You can change the composition of the dress. You can change the color. You can say that, okay, this should be the design. They will prepare there and it will be delivered to you. You will pay there. Bank is also inside the metaverse. It can be delivered. So it's possible that now break bulk is now breaking up, whether it's medicine, which is prepared just for you, taking into account what are your illnesses or body composition. It's the dress which is prepared just for you. It's the automobile which is prepared just for you. Now it's possible because of the 3D printing.
Yeah.
The Boeing, the automobile, all of them are using these precision printings in terms of 3D. In 3D, you know that bridge over road was delivered by 3D printing. Dubai municipalities has done its municipal area by 3D printing. So 3D printing, you are not using steel with the help of some material and the design. That strength is coming there in the 3D printing. So as the technology progresses, and we are very well aware that the march of technology cannot be stopped. So imagine we are now, when negotiating what should be the rules of origin, with the 3D printing, the rules of origin collapses. Now in FTA, what should be the entire these are what we call disruptive technology.
True.
China has invested so much into manufacturing, many of them will become redundant as the 3D technology advances or additive manufacturing advances, and automation sets in motion, or deep machine learning becomes machine to machine talk becomes more important, then that high value will be produced by this only. And that's why this decade has seen how the disruptive technology is going to take over the entire manufacturing and the service. Drone today has a world market of 100 billion. And with the help of LIDAR, GIS, remote sensing, its application is in civilian, its application is in military, its application is in commercial. It has a multiple in medicine, in disaster management. Drone has almost entertainment. It has application everywhere else. And we need to go towards this technology. Nanotechnology, today my watch is being run by the nanotechnology. Today we are preparing nano urea. The nanotechnology is prevalent everywhere. Today, if we go and see the clean energy, we have by 2050, we have a $120 trillion US market worldwide. And there is a massive investment which needs to come in this sector. One example I would like to give is exoskeletons, which we have not started doing it. What is exoskeletons? I don't know whether you have seen some of the movies, Avatar or The Steel Man, where a man is inside a suit,
a black costume,
suit, which is performing all the tasks.
Right.
So if he's an old man, then with that suit you can perform tasks 10x or 20x.
Right.
So those who are not able to walk, they can climb the stairs with the exoskeletons. Or in the military, if you have to have a mule for carrying some load, with the exoskeletons you can carry easily all those loads in the mountainous area with much more ease. Or exoskeletons can perform many hard and arduous tasks like the bomb disposal, very easily. So, exoskeletons is one where India has not even started manufacturing anywhere. In the same way, let's say aeroponics. Now, in aeroponics, you basically treat the root of a particular crop with nutrient. It applies 90% less water.
Right.
And in 70,000 square feet, it can produce 2 million pounds of grains, crop. Worldwide, there is scarcity of water, or NASA is doing it, or we go on a planet, let's say for example, where there is less of a water, or as urbanization takes place, where there is a less of a scope for cultivation, the aeroponic will take place. We are still in an age of hydroponics, So we need to migrate to the age of aeroponics. The unfortunate part is that we are very low in R&D. So we need to little bit implement R&D also, so that we are able to take a leap in all this modern technology. While our aim is to create 100 global champion brand. In manufacturing, we have just one Tata Steel brand. And in services, we have a couple of them, 3-4 of them. So imagine we want to have something like Microsoft, 100 Microsofts.
Right.
or something like you can name an international brand. We still have a long way to go if we have to realize our vision for 2047.
So you're saying you need to motivate a lot of startups in order to be
Yes.
champions
Yes.
of India and then the world.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, and that too in the lead technology. In some of it, of course, with the proper application of patent, you can go there and you can take some. For example, Iran has done it in the drones, where it's supplying all the drones to Russia. We have also identified approximately 30 to 40 sectors
Yeah.
where we can go without actually violating patent right. But then those 30, 40 sectors are very high value sectors. And they are in the defense sector, they are in communication sector. The space becomes very important. The modern warfare is very important and very different right now. When you want to gain the first strike capability and you want to develop the shield in the sky. You see, of late, once there was threat of Israeli attack on Iran, Iran erected its shield in the
Right.
sky. So, the warfare is becoming very, very different today.
True.
Where the triad, the warfare is not only in terms of land or the sky, it's also sea.
This
sea-based.
information warfare.
It's information
there's
warfare. It's blocking.
cyber warfare.
Yeah, it's destroying the missiles. It's MIRV. These all technologies have acquired a new dimension, and in all this, space plays a very important role. Now, fortunate part is that we are very advanced in the space sector. Now, if we are advanced in the space sector, then we need to apply telecommunication and other advantages of availability of data in the space sector, because the space sector becomes important both in civilian as well as in the military field. As I talked about warfare, it's important. It's also important, let's say, like pilotless vehicles. And tomorrow, all the vehicles and the commercial trucks and everything will be done pilotless.
True.
So it's important that the aviation sector chips in and we take full advantage of this space technology.
Quite hopeful for the future in terms
Yes,
of the
I am.
integration of technology and how we need to be more efficient in
Yes,
terms
I
of growing a
am.
business.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am sure.
Great. So if you had the power, Dr. Amiya Chandra had the power to introduce a policy that can improve the trade of our nation, what would you do?
Segmental approach, number one. I do not believe that, as I have pointed out, that we need to have a niche market, niche product, branded product, at the same time, highly labor intensive products. Both. It has to be done. That is point number one. Point number two, I would invest heavily in upskillings and reskilling, because that's most important part. The labor productivity is possibly the most important in a nation's march towards opulence. And if we are not able to upgrade the skill of our population, then this young population, then instead of demographic dividends, it will be a demographic disaster. And if you want to avoid this demographic disaster, then we have to invest heavily in the HR sector.
Right.
And the last one, that we need to implement Indian National INSS, which is standard certification. We need to know what is the world standard, and we have to bring all our institutions and the accreditation up to that world standard. And that can only happen once there is a mutual treaty where they recognize our laboratory, we recognize their laboratory, they have a trust in us and we have a trust in them. Finally, as a policy, we must check the pulse of a younger generation. They believe in reuse. Now, most of the fiber which we are using, the dress which we are wearing, it lands up in the landfill site.
Right.
There has been an invention of this century, recellulose, which breaks the fiber from the garment. Now, if we can break the fiber, we can have an aggregation and disaggregation sector. We can break the fiber, then we can reduce the environmental impact of creating a t-shirt or a shirt or a pant. Because we will use that fiber in the generation of a shirt or a t-shirt without going for making of, drying, using from cotton to making the fiber. There is a whole lot of process involved which is hazardous to environment. And today, when there is more and more emphasis on environmental sustainability, possibly making use or reuse of a product, to invest R&D in that should be our top.
Like you said, technology will create great impact on that as well, because it's going to reduce the wastage, more efficient, and we can improve a lot in terms
of course, in terms of design, in terms of styling, in terms of wastage, in terms of appropriateness. Technology is the best. Today, if you find that most of the limbs which are being made is 3D.
Right.
Today, Goodyear has created a tire where there are living mosses inside. And while the tire moves, it irrigates them.
Wow.
And it gives oxygen to the environment. So imagine a tire which is going, there are living mosses inside it, which is environment friendly, and it's releasing oxygen to the environment. In future, it might start charging the battery also. You don't need a battery.
True.
Now, in the same manner, Adidas is making shoes, I think 5 lakh pairs in a year, which is using ocean pollutants and seaweeds. So, environmental consciousness is there, so that it's being made there. In Oscar, for the last many years, 3D printed dress are the one which bag the best costume award.
True.
You must understand that the march of technology towards creating a net zero or a net positive environment is immense. And we must harness the technology to fulfill our commitment for net zero or net positive in 2070, as we have promised.
And all the nations have to work together in order to live a sustainable life.
Yes.
Be more cooperative and more cooperation.
I agree. I
want to end this conversation with one question that I would ask you about how there's a lot of ancient wisdom that India has in terms of our Arthashastra, for that matter, or Gita or Mahabharata. What can we learn from our ancient wisdom in today's time and in terms of trade, in terms of running a business?
From 1 AD to 1000 AD, India's GDP was 30% of the world. From 1000 AD to 1700 AD, that is Middle Ages, or till the Britishers arrived, even during the Mughal period and all, Islamic rule, our GDP was 24% of the world. And we had a world population of 28%. Even though the Chinese GDP was higher than ours, its per capita income was very low because the wealth was concentrated only in few hands in Chinese aristocracy. Whereas in India, the wealth was very evenly distributed. It was only when in 1700 the Britishers arrived and then they drained the nation, our GDP dropped to 4% when they left of the world GDP. We were at that time leading exporter of most of the items, whether it's agricultural items or silk or textile or handlooms, whatever items which we were producing, were exporting to the world. The spices, we were the leader, and we were importing bovine and some animals from the world. We had an advantage in terms of technology and foresight. Unfortunately, we surrendered. And as I said earlier, that today we are exporting only those items which the world does not need, or they need only 10%. We are 30% exports in that sector.
Right.
And what world needs 70%, we have export of 0.29%. So we need to learn from our ancient wisdom to supply to the world what actually they require.
Wow.
That's point number one. Point number two, there are two wellness concepts. Now, if there is a cliff, and below it you post an ambulance, so that if somebody falls down from the cliff, you can quickly take him to the market. That's one concept. But if you can somehow put a fence around the cliff so that no one falls down, that's a better approach. So entire yoga, health system, what Japanese require today is preventive medicine. And it's a major import of preventive medicine.
Right.
So the world is looking for the preventive medicine because it's aging.
Right.
And with age-related ailment, if you can prevent them or you can somehow keep them young, then Indian wisdom is galore. We have given yoga to the world. We have given many Ayurvedic medicine to the world. We have given many medicines which basically prevents you from becoming ill. So I'm talking about fencing the cliff,
Right.
where you basically allow the world not to fall in. In spite of all this, India was a leader in technology. I do not know, we hear about Pushpak Viman, we hear about MRF technology being in the ancient Veda period. Whether it existed or not existed, I'm not aware. But what I'm trying to say is that no nation can progress if it cannot keep its march with technology. And technological march you can prevent to your peril only. So India had been a leader in technology in the ancient period in terms of boat making, selling and everything. It had given technology to the world. Only China, India and Egypt were three technology centers at that point of time. So if we can keep march with the technology and be the technology leader, it's not that we have not been. In fact, our IT sector has been recognized as the most advanced in the world, which we started in 1990s, and we were the leader in the IT sector. We need to be a leader in the services 2.0, which is additive manufacturing and which is AI generated deep machine learning, robotics, laser, all this new technology which has come. We need to be a leader in this technology only. Then only we can allow the march of the nation to the level which we have dreamt of in 2047.
Wow. That's a great way of ending it, sir. This has been a great conversation with you, quite insightful. But before we go, I would like to ask you two very personal questions, if you allow me.
Thank you.
First question is, what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
The one is that a public service is a different kind of service. And if it is not taken otherwise by the younger generation, I must say I still believe in the old Gandhian dictum that if you want to check the suitability of your action, just question yourself, is it going to benefit the poorest of the poor of your society? If it is going to, then go ahead and do it without any doubt. So you enter into public service for giving more advantages to the people. I'll give you one example, and that's a very interesting example. I was working in Municipal Corporation of Delhi as DC, Deputy Commissioner, and I was also in charge of remunerative project cell and creative cell. There was a fight going on between Delhi Traffic Police and we had a very learned lady who was a great proponent of cycle rickshaw. So the Joint Commissioner of Traffic was telling to the Lieutenant Governor in that meeting that, sir, we cannot allow the cycle rickshaw to operate in the New Delhi Municipal Corporation and those areas where traffic is moving very fast because it will be a traffic hazard.
Right.
But the Lieutenant Governor said that we are setting up now metro where we require last mile connectivity. And if last mile connectivity is not there, then metro will be a failure because nobody would like to spend again on taxi from the metro station to go home, which will be very expensive. They would like to have their own conveyance. The learned lady said that cycle rickshaw can operate everywhere. This concept that it cannot allow in a fast moving area is an elitist concept, which should be done away with. So I made a request. I said, can I come out with a solution? He said, okay, go ahead. We came out with e-rickshaw. We made the model. Initial model was different than the current one, but we made the model. We imported from China some equipment and we did the test drive. I did the test drive by putting municipal commissioner and I did that e-rickshaw drive. We went to the chief minister, we did that drive and e-rickshaw came into existence. That's where there. The question came that I was approached by some businessmen that why don't you patent this product? I said, if I patent the product, then my entire thinking is that all those who are driving cycle rickshaw, they should migrate to e-rickshaw. Because those who are driving cycle rickshaw, it's very, very cruel. You know, they drive in the heat, do not have proper nutrition, they get TB. And most of them are migrants from Bihar, UP, the state to which I belong, and I had a natural kind of affinity to them. I said that if I patent this technology, then maybe I'll make some money. I'll resign and make money, But then the larger population will not benefit out of it. So today, the e-rickshaw is not patented. Anybody can import, anybody can do it, and it's all over India today. When I go and I stay in an area in Dwarka, I sit in an e-rickshaw and I ask him, "Are you happy with this?" He said, "Yes, sir. ये हमारे परिवार को बहुत मदद करता है। पहले हम साइकिल चलाते थे, कई लोगों ने कहा साइकिल रिक्शा चलाते थे, आज के दिन में दिन भर में कमाई भी अच्छी हो जाती है, ठेकेदार को देने के बाद भी बहुत पैसे बच जाते हैं और थकावट भी नहीं होती है." I always think that that's the award which I have got it. I'll give you another example. In the same municipal corporation of Delhi, when I was there, I had just joined. I think it was 2006. I had 2005 I had joined, but it was 2006 possibly, when the Delhi High Court said that all out-of-home advertisement need to go. And it said that they are hazardous, they are distraction to the moving traffic, and they are bad in taste. I tried to argue, but then I was told that the skyline must be cleared within a month. And this applies not only to MCD, but MCD, NDMC, Delhi Metro, railways, DDA, PWD, all of them had to remove their advertisement from the Delhi road hoarding. And at that point of time, most of the advertisements were of steel structure, gigantic, very large. In fact, today only we heard that in Mumbai, some railway, some hoarding fell off, and 9 or 10 people died out of that. And those kind of hoardings used to exist in Delhi.
I see.
And they were very bad in taste. I was given the order. I went to the Honorable Supreme Court. Now, Honorable Supreme Court, in its order in 1997, had directed that this need to be removed. So Delhi High Court was was referring to that order and said that even though Supreme Court had said in 2007, you have not removed it. Okay. And I said, I'll hold officers liable if it's not removed within 40 days. 30 or 40 days. I decided to go to the again full bench of the Honorable Supreme Court, and it was Justice Balakrishnan, Honorable Justice Balakrishnan, Honorable Justice Kapadia, and one more justice. Full bench was there. I said, "Sir, this is one of the largest revenue earner for the municipal corporation, and we run bus, streets, lights, urinals, toilets with this revenue. We keep city clean. If this goes away, then possibly MCD will be bereft of a major source of revenue. It would not be possible to run all these amenities." So the Honorable Supreme Court rightly said that, but they are bad in taste. So I said, we will come out with a policy where we will ensure that they are good in taste and they are energy centers. If you go to the Times Square in US, New York, you see that it's an energy center. Yeah. I said it will be energy center and it will be not hazardous also. So I was given 1 month time to write the policy, to get it approved from the Standing Committee, House, Delhi Legislative Assembly, and then get it vetted and then come to the Honorable Supreme Court. Get it vetted by the EPCA. I wrote the policy, got it approved, got it vetted. Policy was in 700 pages. And then the Supreme Court looked at it and said, now reduce it to 40 pages, So I had to reduce it to the 40 pages. It approved the policy. So today in Delhi, if you see that there are not major ugly steel structures existing, there are no rooftops there. There are no wall wraps which are bad in size and colors and different shapes. This all is a product of that policy which is approved by the Honorable Supreme Court. And this is being emulated all over India. We also gave it what kind of a street furniture need to be there, which you see street furnitures in Delhi. So, when you look back to, we set up waterless urinals at that point of time, which is now everywhere it is required to be set up. That time it was considered revolutionary, waterless urinals. And we faced the problem because of the drain structure. It was not uniformly declining. It was somewhere it used to get inclined. So the whole drain used to get choked. But if you look back all these things, it gives you tremendous satisfaction that you did something for the country. And there are many areas where I failed. I tried to create 24 into 7 this metaverse. I have been trying for 2 years. I retired, but I could not implement it because when I went for its tender, they said we can't understand how will you do it.
Oh.
I tried to set up 5-star toilets in all major markets. It did not materialize. I tried to set up G2C kiosks, government to citizen kiosks, which are of e-commerce today. We tried to do it in 2006, which is almost 18 years back, which is happening where anything is delivered to you at the doorstep at the shortest possible time. We wanted to set up 1,000 such kiosks where such amenities will be delivered to the Delhi citizen throughout. It did not come across because there were partisan politics.
Right.
The councillors wanted their own people to be deployed there. The kind of people we wanted to run the whole thing, they said, no, they will not run, only we will have a say. So, it became a victim of politics.
But that has started now and it's
That
privatized.
has started 18 years back. So, many a times I feel that we were much ahead of time. But I would always say to the youngsters that never get discouraged. It's like a boxing match, the entire career, where you have to last 13 rounds. And those 3 minutes of bouts are very intensive. It's time that you take rest of 1 minute also. You get some posting, which is a little relaxing. You can write some books, like I have written 6 books.
Wow.
And I have written many journals also and many articles also. Keep on delivering lectures throughout the university to create youngsters who are dedicated to the nation. But important is that you chuck, you rest, you identify your opponents, and then you hit. You have to somehow test the water, then deliver the appropriate thing.
Sure.
And never be scared of taking risks. If your intentions are bona fide, then it does not matter what will be the outcome.
Wow.
If you have intelligence, if you have dedication, go ahead and give your best. Trust me, whatever people might say that civil services is not what it used to be, I would insist that civil servants now need to be more intelligent, future-oriented, tech-savvy and visionary than before. Because this is the age where vision and technology has taken over. And if they are not visionary, tech-savvy, and in sync with what is happening in the world, then possibly India's march to progress will not happen what is envisioned by the government. So they have a big role to play. And I would say that I'm sure that Indian bureaucracy and the youngsters will come up to that role.
Wow, sir. So since this podcast is called Diary of a Publisher, I make sure to ask all my guests one question, that is, which book you read a lot, sir? Which book you wish you would have read earlier in life?
It's a long list. It's a very long list.
Any one book that changed your perspective on life and how you...
If you ask me, the first book which inspired me too much was The Monk Who Sold Ferrari. I'll tell you why. It was the Robin, the actor. He realized life is not something where you keep on running. He says that you will do the thing best which you enjoy doing it. And that's why he went back to the village and he rejuvenated himself. He learned the smaller tricks, like if you break your promise, you have to stand below the cold shower for half an hour, 1 hour, so that you will not repeat the same mistake. That commitment you need to have. And he was much younger, much rejuvenated, rather than one who collapsed in the court while much younger. So my advice to the youngsters who are coming here, and now that I have retired, is that enjoy your career, enjoy your work. You can give your best only when you feel that you are a part of the journey. Unless you feel unless you feel you are part of the journey, you will get alienated from the work.
Right.
Fixing blame is the most convenient thing. It could not happen because of X factor, because of Y factor, because of Z factor. And trust me, there are many in the bureaucracy who do that only. Have you ever seen a statue has been erected in the honor of a critique? Never be a critique. Be the creator.
True.
The world will praise you when you are a creator and when your creation caters to the last person in the queue, the poorest of the poor, as Gandhiji has said. Have that empathy. As long as you have that empathy, as long as your intents are pure, you can never go wrong. And be fearless and bold. Just do your work. The rest all will just go out of your way.
Well said, sir.
God bless you.
Thank you so much. This has been a very inspiring conversation for me. I'm sure it's been for the audience as well. Again,
thank you.
We appreciate your
Thank you,
time and
Shivam.
your support on this, sir. If you enjoyed the episode or got some value out of it, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Until then, keep reimagining yourself and know that the power of change lies within you.